We'd like to show you how we're using ICT to have a real impact on the students' learning here at Heathfield School for Girls. Rather than show you all the various examples of how we use ICT within the school, we're going to focus on two specific examples and explain in detail the educational rationale for each one. One example of how we've used ICT to support learning is with our online learning journeys in the early years foundation stage. The learning journeys are essentially blogs for each child that the early years staff can use to log evidence of learning and link them to the early learning goals. Learning journeys used to be done as a kind of scrapbook. However, there are a number of problems with that. Mainly it was very time consuming for members of staff to print out hundreds of photos, cut them out and stick them in. They'd also be working off dozens of post-it notes which would then have to be written up at the end of the day, and post-it notes would easily get lost and mislaid. Now that the learning journeys are done online, each member of staff has an iPod Touch that they can use to post directly to the learning journeys.
We have found that the teachers have been able to get themselves more involved with what the girls are doing, because taking yourself away from what the child is doing to write a post-it or it wasn't convenient. You had to go and grab a bit of paper and make sure you write something down. And it was just too time consuming. So with the iPod Touches we can do it there and then, very easy and simple, and we're all doing it really quickly, and we can do it straight away, and then we're still there with the children, we're not being distracted from them. So that's been the main thing for us in the classroom, I think.
Okay, if you're able to record the evidence quicker, does that mean you're able to do it more often?
Definitely more often, yeah. The iPod Touches go everywhere with us, and we're finding that certain places, like when we walk the girls round to the pond, or whether we're on the playing fields outside in the garden area, they're always with us. It's definitely more regular, and I think it's more thorough as well. We're getting more information on there because we can link it with the learning area instead of having to go back with a post-it or a label later and add that on.
The success of the learning journeys in the early years, we decided to kind of roll that out to the other year groups, and we've been making a class blog, I guess. We only went live with our Year 1 blog a couple of weeks ago, but the response I've had has been really positive. The parents are all very enthusiastic, and they've even given us some suggestions and ideas on what we can do in our future topics. The children have been really enthusiastic about the learning journeys. In fact, I had some girls come up to me yesterday. We went on a school trip to the Tower of London on Wednesday, and I'd taken lots of photographs on the way round. And one of the girls came up to me and said, I think we should put this photograph on because it shows that we learn how to show respect to the King and the Queen whilst we were in the castle. So they're really taking ownership of their own learning, and they're having a lot of input into the learning journey, which I didn't think that they would when we initially set it up. But actually the parameters have changed because the girls are so enthusiastic about it.
How have parents reacted?
Really positive. It's been really positive feedback. I've had lots of good comments about how it's improved the communication. And how they can see more of what their children are doing at school. They feel definitely more involved in them reaching their achievements, and we've had a lot of the parents, which has really surprised us, being able to link their own comments at home from holiday experiences with what they're actually achieving compared to the learning scale. So they've actually started linking it to the areas and the targets, and basically doing what we do at school, just reflecting it. So that the parents are more aware of what the learning goals are, and they're becoming more involved in doing that themselves.
Some teachers might think it might be more time consuming to do it this way, and might be quite reluctant to give it a go. What would you say to them about your experience?
It was our worry at first that it would be more time consuming, particularly mine, definitely. I thought that with added technical difficulties with using the computer, getting in, maybe problems logging in, that it would be more time consuming in the long run. But it absolutely hasn't been. It's really surprised us all how easy and simple it's been to use. So all the staff have really embraced it. You know, even the teaching assistants who weren't as confident using PCs and laptops at first, you know, they've really embraced it as well and become a lot more confident at uploading. So it's completely gone the other way around. Really surprised us. It's so easy to use.
And we did initially think that, well, the junior school teachers especially did think that it would be an added time constraint for them to update a class blog. But actually what we've done to get away from that is I said that I will run a lunchtime club for the years 3, 4, 5 and 6, where there'll be 2 girls who are responsible for the blog and updating the blog on a week-to-week basis. So in the junior school it will be very much in the hands of the girls what goes on that blog, and obviously the class teacher will have overall responsibility and be able to upload photos and comments themselves, but we really wanted to put it into the hands of the girls to show what they wanted to share with their parents.
Would you ever move back to doing the learning journeys in their paper form?
No. Far too time consuming. It really took us away from our teaching and where we should have been putting all our time and effort into, taking us away from the classroom environment. You know, having to deal with all paperwork, lots more paperwork. We already have a lot in early years, and I just think it's taken a lot away from that. We're far more involved. I wouldn't go back now, definitely not.
We've been using a site called Edmodo, which is a secure social network designed specifically for schools. One example of where Edmodo has had a real impact on the students' learning is in Year 7 music, where they've been using it to support collaboration and discussion whilst they've been researching African music.
I think the impact on the learning is very positive, and it's greater using Edmodo. I think giving the girls ownership of their own learning and let them take it off on their own direction a little bit is really positive. I'm sure they'll all remember it much better than something that I was able to deliver to them. You can make all sorts of high impact learning in a normal classroom situation, that's fine, but especially in internet research, I've never seen any learning that's quite so rich with internet research as I did in that lesson. That was really exciting. I've been looking for a way for a long time to make internet research more collaborative and more intuitive, and just to let it happen naturally like any other discussion would happen, or the girls chatting or working in groups. I've never found it until now. The girls said, I've found a picture of an African aerophone. Now, aerophone's a generic term for any instrument that you blow air into to make a sound.
Because someone else wrote aerophones, and I typed it in onto Google Images, and I found a picture of one and I uploaded it, and then me and Charlotte started having a discussion on aerophones after that, and we found out what, because I play a clarinet and she plays a saxophone, and we found out they were aerophones.
So the girls posted this picture. It was a kind of African or North African panpipe that they'd found from a specific district. It had a name that that they hadn't managed to find. And I said, what's an aerophone? And another girl searched that picture on Google and came up with the correct name for the instrument. And then we started a discussion on aerophones, and I said, well, have a look and see if you can find what the term aerophone means. It's a generic term, not a specific. They went off and searched. They came back, realised that an aerophone is something you blow through. And then the most beautiful thing happened. A couple of the girls started going, oh, I play clarinet, so is that an aerophone? Yes, it is. And is saxophone an aerophone? What are some other ones? And they all started to ask each other questions and interact. And before you know it, we had a big discussion going on aerophones, idiophones, membranophones, electronophones, and all the other classifications of musical instruments. And then one of the girls found a picture, a diagram on the internet that explained how these Greek classification names work in a really simple graphic way, and posted that up on the wall so everyone could see that as well. So it was fantastic to see them head off in a new direction to something I probably wouldn't touch on until Year 10. Straight away in Year 7, and they were all really excited to do that.
Could you have not got that same result, the same discussion about the aerophone without using Edmodo in the class?
I could have manufactured it, but I never would have. It would be really easy to say, right, we're going to talk about classifying instruments now. Should we talk about their families or how they make sound? Sure, we could have done that, but I don't think it would have ever emerged organically, and I would never have thought that it was a useful thing to talk about with that age group. I couldn't see a point to it, but now I definitely can, and we've been able to link it back to learning they did at the start of the year when they were making their own instruments and working out how sound works. So the answer is yeah, sure, we could have done it, but it was very, very efficient, and it was all about them. They were leading the learning, not me. I was just guiding them along the way a little bit.
Would you have carried out the same lesson without using it?
If we were doing an introductory research lesson, I probably would have played a few more examples to them. I would have questioned them individually and as a group. We would have gone to computers in pairs and done some research. We probably would have shared those results at the end of the lesson in a short discussion, but the discussion wouldn't have been able to be while the research was ongoing. They were able to discuss during the whole lesson with the whole class and interact all together, rather than just at the end in some sort of manufactured classroom discussion.
In talking about these two examples of how we've used ICT to support our students' learning, I hope we've provided practical examples that other teachers can take away and try at their school as well.